Hey guys, so today just to mix it up, as you know, I do play regular chess. I don't just play Shatranj. I'm going to show you a game that I played at the local club today against another national master. Um, I had the white pieces, and my opponent played a Stonewall, which is one of the areas where I have just always struggled with the white pieces. I got to be honest, I have always struggled with this. I know, like, all of the plans that you are supposed to play, and a lot of times in practice, I kind of misplay them, or it doesn't quite work out. So, castles is a starting position for the Stonewall. Black plays bishop to e7. That's a kind of traditional stodgy move. A lot of players will play bishop out to d6 instead. You continue with the same kind of idea. White is basically going to try to target this e5 square, and the way to do it has always traditionally been to try to trade off this pair of black or the black bishop on d6 and the white bishop on c1, the pair of dark squared bishops. So bishop d6, you just continue like b3, threatening to play bishop to a3. Black will then play queen to e7, and then white still plays a4 in order to try to get this done. And the games tend to go something like this: black castles, white steps out, and now, for some reason that's never been quite clear to me, black always just goes ahead and allows this exchange. But the problem now for black is that this knight on a3 has a perfect way to reroute, and we'll get in to d3, where it supports the other knight jumping in, knight fe5. And okay, that position, if I got that position, I think I would understand how to play it. That makes sense to me intuitively. You put the knight here and you put the other knight there, and that's great. But one of the things that I really struggle with is, okay, so black just plays bishop d7 in this game. I play b3, black castles, and I play bishop to a3, hoping that black will just take and then allow me to play this beautiful little plan where I just then dominate all of the squares of the board. But black did something here. He played knight e4, and I've had this position before. I had the white pieces in this position against a strong Cincinnati master named Sergei Burchenko. I played this position like 15 years ago. I was 16 years old, and I was playing for the Cincinnati City Championship. And I remember that game went like this. Okay, black played knight to e4. I'm just going to play queen to c2. And then after takes queen to e7, I was embarrassed about the fact that suddenly I don't have this knight maneuver. I'm like, what do I do without the magic secret sauce maneuver? Well, if I recall, that game went something like this. So I play queen to b2, trying to hold this knight. And then black played knight on b to d7. And if I recall, I just thought, oh, well, the way is clear for me to just jump in, and I played knight c2. But the problem for me was basically after something like take and push, something like this, the knight on c2 just looked a little misplaced, and okay, there's no way that I'm going to actually manage to reroute it here. And I remember black just played against the c4 pawn and made me miserable. Although I think maybe modern computers actually do better and sort of like white. I'm just gonna pop on see, if I pop on Stockfish, like Stockfish loves this position for white. And yeah, just okay, all right. So Stockfish says a4. Black plays b6 or a5. Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know. Maybe white just has some pressure here, but that just wasn't my experience. Yeah, if somebody has played kind of a better game along those lines, I'd like to know about it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do just play knight c2 here. Maybe this is totally good for white, and I just don't understand anything. I think you're supposed to play something more like rook on f to c1 if you get this position. Maybe black plays like a5, and and then maybe you launch into this. You kind of have to get it done at some point. I'm just see, yeah, like so. Stockfish seems to enjoy the white pieces here a lot more than I do at first blush. I kind of look at this and I'm like, gee, black really seems to be doing okay. Um, wow, like black even gets to play a4, right on c to e1. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish must have a lot of faith in the difference between the two bishops here if it's still giving white up half a pawn despite black having like all of this space on the queen side. So I don't know. I've just always felt like a fish out of water in these positions, and that's why I didn't go in for queen c2, which I feel like this knight ends up getting misplaced, and I have to move here with a queen. So I decided in this game, recalling my experience from so many years ago, okay, this game I'm going to take. I'm going to play bishop takes e7. And then after after queen takes e7, I came up with this other idea, right? So my idea here was maybe I don't have this knight maneuver anymore that I really want to play, but I thought I was very clever, and I said, if I play the knight first, I put this knight on d3, and then I can sneak this knight in to f3. I was like, oh. And believe it or not, uh, that is exactly what happened in the game. Everything that I predicted came true. I played so after knight to e5. Yeah, my opponent played knight d7. I played knight d3, and then he just gave me a free move. He went back, and I played knight d2. And black self-destructed here. He played d takes c4, which then allowed knight takes c4. So I actually do. I like accomplish everything, and I get my stronghold on c5, and I'm like in a totally great position. But you have to say from a repertoire standpoint, I mean, wait a minute, not so fast. 95, it does look like I'm losing a lot of time. I'm moving this knight before I've even developed this one. And if you're thinking like, gee, there really ought to be a way for black to exploit that, I think there is. So after knight d7, knight d3, in the game, I'll tell you what I thought in the game. I thought in the game that, well, if black wants to try to mix things up and take advantage of the fact that I've just wasted 2 moves with my knight, he'll play d takes c4, then I'll play b takes, and then black will play c5. Like I kind of had this idea in mind. There were 2 moves that I considered here for white that I thought would be like, okay, these will be like the main lines. I thought e3, which is kind of like the okay move that you don't really want to play, but if it turns out my other good ideas don't work, this is like a bailout. I wasn't a super fan of this because I thought, okay, well, black is just going to continue his development. He's going to put pressure on this diagonal. I'll play knight d2. Black will play here. And I just felt like, okay, well, what's black's problem now? He's going to be able to develop. He'll put his rooks on open files and he'll target my pawns. I mean, I think maybe it's not quite so simple as that, and and I realized at the time that okay, the game isn't going to be as simple as that. I'm going to have some chances. I can probably play, something like a4 here, and I'm going to have a5, and I do have a lot of space. I have a lot of pawns that are all up here. I have a lot of pawns. I have a lot of pressure. So I wouldn't have been depressed about this position, but I felt like this was going to be the second-rate way to go. turns out that the move e3 is much better than the idea that I actually thought was going to be my main idea, which is, well, I'm going to just blow it open and play pawn to d5. As my opponent commented after the game, gee, if he knew that I was going to play into this position, he would have been so happy because he played e takes, e takes, and in his mind he was just, okay, something like knight d6, which knight d6 is fine. You'd actually be a lot more aggressive here with black. You can just play b5, b5 followed by bishop to b7. So while I had some like fantasies in my mind about how I was going to have dynamic play with this pawn on d5, just concretely, nothing works here for white. Like, so knight d2, right? The kind of obvious developing move. Just knight c3, and I'm being hit. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the question in my mind is why did I value this position or evaluate this position as being okay and dynamic for white? And I think it's probably not based on anything objective, because objectively my knight on b1 sucks, and black will play b5, and I have no activity, and black has activity, and my knight is very passive. You'll play bishop to b7 to target the d pawn, and did I mention my knight was passive? So I think that I just evaluated the move d5 as maybe being like good for me in my mind, because I felt that I had done everything right so far, like, and white is supposed to have an advantage against the Stonewall. So since I think I've done everything right, and I can't point to any moves that I think are bad, and black is supposed to not be just winning in the Stonewall. I think I logically deduced that I must then have a great position, but that's a logical fallacy in chess most of the time. You have to evaluate the position that's on the board. You don't start from like some premise that one side of an opening is like better or worse, and then work backwards and say, well, I've played all the right moves. I mean, maybe sometimes you do, but typically that's not a great way to think. Um, so I like to think that if I got into this position on the board, I would have switched to my backup move rather than going for d5 once I realized how bad it was, and it's very committal, so maybe I would have spent a little time there. And in that case, I would have played e3, and I have like an okay game there. I mean, white might even have a slight advantage. It's just not really the game that I wanted to play. Turns out that after c5, the best line for white is something I didn't really consider at all, which is d takes. And the reason I didn't consider it is I thought, oh, well, this just gives black a free move. But it turns out, okay, I can play knight d2 there. So I'm just going to finish my development. Black plays something like rook d8, and I just play queen c2. And this position is actually totally fine for white. And in fact, white actually has a pretty big advantage here. Because the black bishop on c8 doesn't develop and the white bishop does. The white bishop is doing great. So you kind of can see how this plays out, right? So if b6, trying to play the bishop out, then we just throw in knight takes, and black can't go into this. This looks really bad. So black would play queen takes, and then boom, all right, here, and like I'm gonna fork these guys. Suddenly white's winning. So black can't play b6, so I have to find a way to preface it. Maybe he'll play something like rook over, trying to play b6. We know that black is going to play b6, so why not play a4? Now b6, I mean, maybe you have to calculate some things concretely, but okay, why not a5? Um, Suddenly it looks to me like white has really good pressure. And black has to deal with some problems. And yes, white has the isolated pawn on c4, but it's very well defended. There's two pieces defending it, and black has 0 attackers on it right now. And this bishop is good, and white has the pressure, and he's a little bit ahead in development. I mean, both sides have technically finished their development, but white's pieces got to the queen side first. So it actually looks like white has a really big edge. So um, now that's not really the end of the story, right? So taking the big picture, we thinking about it. I've stepped back. I've played these two knight moves. This is kind of my gambit. I'm gambling a couple of tempi because I think that I'm going to be able to set up this structure. I'm going to be able to do so peacefully, and I think that black has to do something to disrupt this. So not knight back, which is what black did, but instead d takes, pawn to c5. Well, as it turns out, that's not the end of the story. So here in this position, yeah, white can just take, play knight d2, queen c2, and have a nice. Whoops, I'm making too many arrows, and have a nice edge. But black has a way to get the e5 break in. He plays queen to f6, targets a d pawn. D5 would be very dynamic chess after I hang the rook. So e3 would be forced, but now black just plays e5. This pawn is in trouble, and so I think I do have to take. But now, like, this is totally fine for black. In fact, black is just probably better here, because now black has done very well with his development. Wow, and in fact, there's problems here. So white has to do something else to save the rook. I don't know, maybe he has to play queen d4 or something, but I mean, among other things, I guess black can just take, play rook d8, rook d1, bishop b6. Black develops all of his pieces in these kinds of lines. I'm sure rook e8 is also fine there. Black develops his pieces. White is struggling to develop his pieces, and yeah, I'll be honest on that. I just completely missed the possibility of queen f6, e3, and e5. Now, query, why did I see c5, but I didn't just see the immediate e5? I think, yeah, the immediate e5. I mean, it's better to play queen f6 first and provoke e3, but at first blush, I don't see any reason why e5 immediately isn't playable. I mean, well, and actually, I don't want to kid myself too much. Maybe I did see this, and maybe I did think I was going to meet it with d5. Although, looking at it now, that looks really ugly because this pawn looks threatened. Something like, I don't know, queen b3. Black can probably play knight d6. I don't know. Well, yeah, so maybe I got my dynamic play here. Maybe I do. Maybe I get my dynamic play and I can claim that I have these wonderful controls over the C file and I'm going to come crashing through at some point. So yeah, I'll check that out, see what the wizard says. Yeah, so e5 immediately. Yeah, okay, all right. It's saying to march ahead with d5. C takes d, c takes d. Although it still likes black. Yeah. So all right. So knight f3, queen b3, knight d6. All right. Yeah. Like, okay, nothing special for white, but I don't know. Balanced game seems like I can do that. Yeah, although this pawn is weak. All right, so it's finding better concrete play with b6 and bishop b7. Yeah, all right, that makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So, yeah, so basically, any way, because white has lost two moves, so any way that black can disrupt the center, he's going to be better, or he's going to be fine at least. So I got super lucky with with knight on e to f6, and uh, this was like kind of an incredible brain fart from my opponent, because he thought that after d like this was just like a horrible kind of visualization error, where as soon as I played knight takes, you could just see the grimace on his face where he's like, "Oh no, what did I just do?" Um, and he thought I was going to play b takes, and then he would have an opportunity to break with either e5 or c5. In fact, the e5 break looks pretty good there. Like, yeah, just for sake of argument. Okay, so yeah, knight on e to f6 lost a lot of time. Stockfish still liking white here. But yeah, e5. I mean, I probably wouldn't have anything better than this. Okay, it looks like I have to find. You know, that looks like it has to be a pretty precise move or something with queen to b3 to get, you know, some sort of pressure. And to be honest, I don't know how well I would have handled this position, because the only pressure seems to be this thing on b7, and rook to b8 is like uh, rook to b8 is in the air. So um, but yeah, I got super lucky. So now my whole knight thing is worked out, and I'll show you the rest of the game. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, because, but I think it's instructive. If you don't know how to win one of these positions with white, I will teach you. Black played queen to d8. He's going now this way to protect the pawn on c7, so he can play b6. I played pawn to e3, which is fine. This is like the world's like most okay development scheme, where white just has a very nice edge. Uh, and I know that, you know, there's maybe some purists out there who think I don't have to like weaken this square, and maybe I should just play rook on a to c1 or something. I considered queen d2. Basically, my thought was, okay, I could play queen to c2 here. I could play rook to c1 here, but I don't really like d2 as much as I like e2, which allows the rook maybe to come to d1 and put pressure on the file. And I thought, well, you know, maybe I'm giving up a little bit of the squares, you know, in the center, and you lose this like support for the knight on d3. But at the same time, I think e3 is probably the right move, because I've now won like 3 tempi, maybe 4 tempi. So I just felt like I have time to do this. Black played knight to b6. Um, and I really wanted to just be like super chicken man here and just play this and not allow any trades, because okay, I have a space advantage. Why would I want to allow any trades? And that's fine. That's a fine move. But when I thought about it objectively, I'm like, well, if black takes, then I'm going to have the open B file. And the point that I really want to crack at is the B7 pawn. That's really where I want to go. So you know, I'm going to just play here. I'm going to capture towards the center. It's going to take control of D5. I'm going to get the B7 point, and I'm not going to stress too much about, you know, did I give up some exact like pawn structure that would have allowed me to get the B5 push in? And black did take, and I took this way. And I was super happy about it, because bishop d7, and then rook to b1. And here black played rook to b8, which makes sense, right? Because if b6, then I'm going to be coming in with knight to e5, and I'm putting some good pressure on this guy. And then I guess queen to c7 or whatever would be played, but then, you know, probably I'm going to continue with a4. We're going to have to c1. I can push c5 if I want. I can push a5 if I want. So that's just a very nice position there. Rook to b8. I jump in, knight to e5. Queen went back out to e7 because he was eyeing the a3 square, but I did not allow him to have the fun. I just play rook to b3. I'm going to double on this file anyway, so if I can just deprive my opponent of his one chance for counterplay, I'll do that. Queen to d6. Kind of some lollying around, but I figured that black has gotten this far. He's defended his c6 pawn, so I'm thinking about, okay, what is my opponent's counterplay? He's going to play b6 and c5, and that was something that I've always dreaded. I dread this all the time. I don't want to play with these like pawns that are going to be under attack, and I'm super paranoid about it. So of course I shut it down with pawn to c5, and now I get the d6 square, which is awesome. Queen to c7. I played queen to b2, just putting some more pressure over here. And then rook on f to d8. And then I just keep piling up. And here you saw the grimace again on my opponent's face, because I think he had intended to play bishop to c8 here. And then he just realized, okay, there's a pin here. There's a pin on the b pawn, right? He realized that I was going to take here, and I forked these two pieces. And then if b takes, then I got rook takes. So he ended up playing bishop to e8, but now I'm just crashing through, right? I play takes, takes, and takes, rook to c8. I was a little annoyed at myself now for the move I play next, although it turns out it's like this should be just completely winning, and this is actually a great move. I play knight to c4. The idea of knight to d6, I'm rerouting the knight. I'm going to drive the rook away from the queen, so that I'm going to force black to play queen takes b7. When I force that, I'm going to dominate the 7th rank, and I'm going to pick up this a pawn, basically. So knight to c4 was one of my candidate moves. The other thing that I was thinking about, right, was queen takes c7 here, and then rook to b8, right? And here's where I just have to say, like, I'm a total idiot, because I saw this in my mind and I thought, well, I got the rook to the good square, and I don't really see a good way to win, because maybe black will play king to f8, leaving this pinned, and I'll play bishop takes c6, because this is pinned. But in my mind, I thought, what if black plays king to f7? Then he unpins the bishop, and I'm like, okay, all right, I should be able to win this, but it's going to take me a while, because I've got to like get this pawn up to a6 or something. Maybe in the meantime, I don't know, maybe black will do something else. I didn't really have a good idea, but I thought, gee, it's going to take me a little while to get my pawn all the way up and this rook all the way up. And of course, I'm an idiot, because the knight is, whoops, that's the wrong arrow. The knight is controlling the square on f7. So that was all ghost. So yeah, so I can actually just probably end the game on the spot by playing takes, takes. Here, threatening this pawn on c6. Black has no good way to defend it, right? Because knight here, then I just grab here with mate. So could have done that. It turns out like my move knight to c4 is also just very, very overpowering. And apparently Stockfish also likes this move like just as well, but that doesn't mean that my thought process was good. Knight d5, because what else? But here I'm looking for to get rid of my bishop for this knight, because good knight versus bad bishop endgame is what I'm going for. I just played bishop takes, and then takes, and then here knight d6. I also looked at rook to b8, but why make things messy with takes and takes? I don't need to allow black to get this past pawn. Knight to d6 looked very clean. Black played rook to e7. Because like where else, right? If he plays here, then I play this, and the only reason it's not mate is because black can give up the bishop. So knight to d6, rook to e7, and then I play here, knight takes f5, and black resigned here, because, well, among other things, now I'm 2 pawns up, so after like rook moves, I can just jump back, and then if I don't see anything I like better, which I probably will, but if I don't see anything better, I can just trade off all the pieces, and then f3, e4. I have 2 extra pawns, and so that pawn endgame is completely winning. Okay, so what did we learn from all this in terms of like thought process, and where did I go wrong? The the one like the one just key mistake I made, because most of the rest of my moves were pretty good. But knight to e5 is just not the right plan. And I liked knight to e5 because after knight d7, knight d3, I thought I was going to have time to do this and this. And why did I think that? Because I thought, well, black could go active, but then I'm going to go active back and get some dynamic play. I think the reason was that I just didn't choose to go further with the analysis. I feel like if I had gone a bit further, then I would have seen more. And that sounds obvious, but that's not always true. Sometimes the position is very complicated, and you could just look and look and look, but at the end you have to go on your gut. I kind of think I probably could have spent a little more time and seen, even if I just saw my opponent's first choice of move, which was knight d6. Well, except in the postmortem, I still thought like, oh well, I'm fine. I'll play knight c3, which maybe I'm kind of okay here. But b5, I'm just kind of it's a depressing position. So yeah, I think one thing is that I didn't choose to look very far. I think the other thing was I felt maybe I was overconfident in the opening, which I shouldn't be, because I never have good positions against the Dutch. I just have some like real lemons of games. Was there an issue with me not knowing the ideas? No. I knew that these were breaks, and I knew that black could play d takes c4 to disrupt that. Did I see the move queen f6? No, I probably should have. But even and okay, so I get why I would think e5 d5, that maybe I have like dynamic play or something here. That's like a somewhat understandable mistake, because if black isn't precise and play like the stockfish b6, if it goes here and here, yeah, okay, maybe this position's about equal. So it's kind of understandable, but it's not so forgivable that I thought that this would be dynamic play for white. So yeah, maybe some overconfidence. Because here, at this point, I could have jumped ship. I could just play here. It's kind of the chicken move. But, like this, probably bishop e8 and knight f3, bishop h5, then I go knight in. Like this is playable for white. And maybe white even can lay claim to some advantage if he gets a couple moves in, and has maybe some slightly better bishop. So I could jump ship there, but I didn't. I was just true to my original idea. Played here, and then I got extremely lucky, and I realized that. So okay, bringing it all back. Bishop takes e7. What am I supposed to do? Well, queen takes, so not knight to e5. So queen to c2 is a popular move. This seems to have worked for some people. I just kind of felt like, well, if I'm not getting my beautiful knight maneuver, what do I have? So knight d7, knight bd2, b6, rook on e to c1. Never mind, I think Stockfish might think this is more accurate or something, but, okay, let's just play normal moves. Bishop b7, and here the thing is, apparently you get to this position and you end up having to play something like e3. And I don't feel like the move e3 really fits with anything. I'm not sure, like looking at it, I'm not quite sure what it does. I mean, I guess objectively it prevents some f4 ideas and it just strengthens this pawn. But I don't quite get like what White's plan is here. How is White going to improve? C5 is kind of like the natural idea. I guess here you have takes. This d5 pawn's now weak, so maybe you reroute this knight, you play knight b1. And then I put this in Stockfish, and it's like, oh, g5. Which is kind of crazy, but okay, I'll run with it. Knight c3, rook a c8, queen b2, queen g7, rook fd1. So, okay, so the game could go like this. And what I guess Stockfish said it was like 2/10 of a pawn better for White. Well, all right, I guess I'm playing against the d5 pawn. I can live with that. I can see the ideas. I can kind of see them. I'll play takes. I'm gonna put pressure here. I guess if g4, then I guess I'll try playing like knight e1 and knight d3. So all right, I kind of see the ideas. So I'm not like totally clueless in that position, but I also wonder like, okay, what if Black doesn't have to play c5, right? Okay, what if Black just plays a5? When I look at this, I'm like, seems like Black's doing fine. He developed all his pieces, got a lot of space. And I guess the idea is like something sophisticated. It's something like this. So yeah, I mean, just turn on Stockfish. Okay, it's like rook fd1. Yeah, rook fc8. I kind of like that move. Okay, all right. It's saying play knight to e1. Knight to e1. Okay. And then Black plays c5. Then you step away. Queen b2. Very subtle. Very subtle. Yeah, I like the move a4 and then knight d3. All right, I can kind of see how to play this as well because there's pressure on the center. Wow, a3, queen a1. Yeah. All right, so I see it's kind of heading for a land where White tries to double on the c file and play c takes d. So I don't know. These positions are murky, and you can go over sample games, but it just feels like nobody's playing any of this stuff right with the black pieces. It seems like if you're playing this right, and you play a move like c5, and you actually just like go for it, and you do the things that look like very challenging, like here, okay, Black plays f4. Yeah, I mean, this looks kind of challenging for White to play. I get like, okay, the king's exposed and all this other stuff, but this looks a little bit challenging, and I think this is not without risk for White either. So I guess the next time I get this position with knight to e4, yeah, I mean, and if you ever play the Stonewall against me, please just take here, and make my day. Let my life be easy. Give me like a clean plan, very easy stuff. But yeah, to all of you out there, with the black pieces, you know, if you kind of wait around and you make me take, I guess I'm just gonna screw around and play like 95. So, um, you know, just I guess other approaches besides, I guess I'm gonna play Queen C2 here and just do what Stockfish does. I guess I could play Knight BD2 first. Um, you know, I can go there. Um, so, yeah, very just interesting stuff. My Stonewall games are never great with white. I was just lucky in this game, and I got kind of the dream position. But still not quite sure what I'm gonna do next time I face the Stonewall. I'm probably just gonna go with this like stock fishy move order with just e3 because I guess there's not really anything quite else for white to do. I guess if you have infinite time here, you play rook fd1, and then you play queen b2, and then uh, maybe you play 91, 93, or maybe you play like a3 and b4, and try to get b5 in. But you know, it doesn't seem like there's major problems for black from my perspective. Comment below if you know something about the Stonewall I don't. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye.